There was once a man who insulted another with cruel words, but the other man simply smiled and walked away. Puzzled, the one who insulted him asked, "Why didn't you respond?" The man replied, "If someone tries to give me poison, I don't have to drink it." My friends, we live in a world filled with conflict. People will mock you, criticize you, betray you. Some will speak against you, twist your words, and try to provoke you. But you do not have to be moved. You do not have to be controlled by their actions. Many times our anger comes from pride. Someone insults us and our pride demands that we fight back. But a wise person knows that their value does not come from what others say, but from who they are in God's sight. Bitterness is a heavy burden. When you hold on to offense, you are carrying something that was never meant for you. Forgiveness is not weakness, it is strength. It is saying, I refuse to let this person control my emotions. The real battle is not against people. The enemy wants to use people to rob you of your peace. But you must see beyond the surface. Your battle is not against flesh and blood, but against unseen forces that seek to pull you away from a life of peace. A gentle answer turns away wrath. When you respond with love, you confuse the enemy. He wants you to react in anger, but when you respond with patience, you prove that your strength does not come from the flesh, but from a higher power. When someone offends you, ask yourself, what is their story? Many times, those who hurt others are deeply wounded themselves. When you see people as God sees them, you will begin to have compassion instead of anger. What you allow into your heart will determine how you react to the world. If you fill your heart with offense, you will be easily provoked. But if you fill your heart with peace, nothing will shake you. Anger begins in the mind. If you meditate on what someone said or did, it will consume you. But if you choose to focus on truth, on what is good, pure, and worthy, you will find that offense loses its grip on you. Your natural self wants to fight back. Your flesh wants revenge, but when you walk in the Spirit, you will be led by patience, kindness, and self-control. The more you surrender to the Spirit, the less anger will have a place in your life. You do not have to fight every battle. God sees all, and He is the one who defends His people. When you trust that He is your defender, you can rest in peace, knowing that no injustice will go unnoticed. You were never meant to be a slave to anger. You were meant to rise above it, to master it, and to walk in a peace that no man can take away. Too many people live as if their emotions control them, reacting to every insult, every offense, every unkind word. But emotions are like waves. Just because they rise does not mean you have to be carried away by them. Anger is a reaction, but peace is a choice. When someone offends you, you have a moment, a split second, where you decide how you will respond. Will you let their words dictate your emotions, or will you take control and remain steady? Those who learn to master their emotions do not deny that anger exists, but they refuse to let it rule them. They understand that just because an emotion arises does not mean it must be acted upon. True strength is not found in how loudly you respond, but in how calmly you endure. The world teaches that to be strong, you must fight back, prove your point, and defend your pride. But real power is in restraint. It is in knowing that your peace is too valuable to be shaken by the careless words of others. You must also recognize that anger is often a mask for deeper issues. Many times it is rooted in fear, pride, or insecurity. When someone insults you, pride tells you to defend yourself. When someone rejects you, fear tells you that you are not enough. But when you master your emotions, you stop allowing these lies to take hold in your heart. Instead of reacting out of wounded pride, you respond with wisdom and grace. This kind of mastery does not come naturally. It takes practice. It requires you to pause, to breathe, to ask yourself, is this worth my peace? It requires you to respond, and most importantly, it requires you to lean on a higher power, knowing that true peace is not found in controlling others, but in surrendering your own heart to something greater than yourself. When you learn to master your emotions, no insult will shake you, no betrayal will break you, and no offense will take root in your heart. You will walk in peace, untouched by the chaos around you, because you are no longer controlled by what happens to you, but by the unshakable strength within you. Pride demands that you always have the last word, that you always prove yourself right, that you never let an offense go unanswered. It whispers that your worth is tied to how others perceive you, that any slight against you must be met with equal force. But peace speaks a different language. Peace does not seek to win arguments. It seeks to win hearts. Peace does not fight to be right. It fights to remain whole. Many people allow pride to dictate their emotions, turning small disagreements into lifelong grudges and minor offenses into broken relationships. They become easily provoked because their sense of self is fragile, built on how others treat them rather than on an unshakable foundation. But those who choose peace understand that their identity is not defined by another person's words or actions. They know that dignity is not found in retaliation, but in restraint. To choose peace over pride means learning when to walk away, when to remain silent, and when to let go. It means recognizing that not every battle is worth fighting, especially when the cost is your own inner calm. A person at peace is not weak. They are strong because they refuse to be controlled by the foolishness of others. They understand that defending their pride might win a momentary victory, but it often comes at the expense of long-term joy. There is wisdom in knowing when to speak and when to stay silent, when to stand firm and when to let things go. The world teaches that strength is found in always proving yourself. But true strength is found in knowing that your worth does not need to be defended. When you choose peace over pride, you are not giving up, you are rising above. You are refusing to let the actions of others dictate your emotion. You are showing that your confidence is not built on the approval of men, but on something far greater. At the end of your life, what will matter more? How many arguments you won, or how much peace you carried? The greatest victories are not in defeating others, but in mastering yourself. When you choose peace over pride, you are choosing freedom. Freedom from the exhausting need to prove, to fight, to always be right. And in that freedom, you will find a life that is unshaken, full of joy, and untouched by the chaos of the world. Forgiveness is not about letting someone get away with what they've done. It's about freeing yourself from the burden of anger and resentment. Many people carry wounds from words spoken years ago, from betrayals that cut deep, from injustices that seem unforgivable. But holding on to bitterness does not punish the other person. It punishes you. It keeps you chained to the past, replaying the hurt over and over again, allowing it to control your present and shape your future. True forgiveness is not a feeling, it is a choice. It is the decision to release someone from the debt they owe you, even when your emotions demand justice. It is saying, I refuse to let this hurt define me any longer. This does not mean ignoring the pain or pretending that the wrong never happened. It means acknowledging the hurt, but choosing to no longer let it have power over you. Many people believe that if they forgive, they are excusing the offense or saying that what happened was acceptable. But forgiveness does not make wrong things right. It simply refuses to let the wrong destroy your heart. When you hold on to resentment, you allow the one who hurt you to keep hurting you, even in their absence. Forgiveness is how you take back control. Some wounds are deep, and forgiveness may not come easily, but it is a process that brings healing. The more you release the pain, the lighter you become. Forgiveness lifts the weight from your soul and restores your peace. It does not mean you have to trust the person again or allow them back into your life. It simply means you are choosing freedom over bitterness. At its core, forgiveness is an act of strength. It takes courage to release an offense, to rise above the pain, and to walk forward without looking back. But those who understand the power of forgiveness live with a joy that cannot be stolen, a peace that cannot be disturbed, and a heart that remains unburdened no matter what life brings. Conflict is rarely just about the words spoken or the actions taken in the moment. There is often something deeper at work, something unseen. When people lash out, offend, or provoke, their behavior is often a reflection of their own struggles, fears, and wounds. Many of the conflicts that arise in life are not really about you at all. They are about the battles others are fighting within themselves. It is easy to take offense and react emotionally, but wisdom teaches us to look beyond the surface. When someone speaks harshly, they may be carrying burdens you do not see. When someone betrays trust, they may be acting out of their own brokenness. Recognizing the source of conflict allows you to respond with understanding rather than anger, with wisdom rather than retaliation. Beyond personal struggles, there is also a greater battle at work, one that is not merely physical. Many conflicts are not just between people, but are influenced by forces that seek to steal peace, destroy relationships, and sow division. The enemy wants you to live in offense, to hold on to bitterness, and to react in anger, because these things keep you bound. But when you recognize that the real battle is not against flesh and blood, you begin to fight differently. Instead of reacting with hostility, you respond with discernment. Instead of getting entangled in arguments, you choose peace. Understanding the true source of conflict changes the way you see those who oppose you. Instead of viewing them as enemies, you see them as people who may be hurting, lost, or influenced by struggles they do not fully understand. This does not mean tolerating wrongdoing, but it does mean approaching conflict with wisdom. It means knowing when to speak and when to stay silent, when to stand firm and when to walk away. It means realizing that not every battle is worth fighting, and that true victory is found in maintaining your peace. When you recognize the deeper source of conflict, you become unshaken. You are no longer easily offended, no longer quick to anger, no longer caught in the trap of unnecessary battles. Instead, you walk in wisdom, peace, and clarity, refusing to be controlled by the chaos around you. When someone speaks harshly to you, your natural instinct may be to fire back with the same energy. When you are insulted, the urge to defend yourself rises. When someone offends you, your emotions demand a reaction. But reacting in the heat of the moment only fuels the fire. It escalates the conflict and gives power to the very thing that is trying to steal your peace. Love, on the other hand, disarms. It does not respond with the same aggression, but with patience and wisdom. Love does not mean weakness. It means choosing a higher way. It means refusing to let someone else's negativity pull you into a battle you do not need to fight. It means responding with calmness when everything in you wants to react with anger. When you respond with love, you confuse the enemy. People expect retaliation. They expect an argument. But when you meet hostility with kindness, you shift the atmosphere. Love has the power to soften even the hardest hearts, to de-escalate tension, and to turn enemies into allies. It does not always happen immediately, but love plants seeds that can change lives over time. Responding with love does not mean allowing yourself to be mistreated or letting people walk over you. It means standing firm in who you are without being controlled by offense. It means knowing that your worth is not determined by another person's words. It means realizing that true strength is in restraint, not retaliation. Every time you choose love over reaction, you become stronger. You gain control over your emotions, over your mind, and over your peace. You no longer live as a victim of what others do, but as a person who chooses their own response. And when you walk in love, you walk in power, the kind of power that no insult, no offense, and no attack can take away. It is easy to judge people by their actions, to label them by their mistakes, and to define them by how they treat us. But if we only see people through human eyes, we will respond with human emotions, anger, resentment, and bitterness. However, when we begin to see others through God's eyes, everything changes. God sees beyond a person's flaws. He sees beyond their harsh words, their mistakes, and their weaknesses. He sees their pain, their struggles, and the wounds that have shaped them. Many times, people who lash out in anger are carrying burdens no one else sees. Those who hurt others are often hurting themselves. When you recognize this, you begin to react differently. Instead of taking offense, you feel compassion. Instead of retaliating, you pray for them. Instead of holding on to resentment, you extend grace. Seeing others through God's eyes does not mean ignoring wrongdoing or tolerating harmful behavior. It means looking deeper, understanding that every person has a story, and realizing that their actions do not define their worth. It means remembering that, just as you need grace, others need it too. When you shift your perspective, your heart becomes lighter. You are no longer easily offended because you understand that the battle is not really with the person. It is with the brokenness they carry. You stop expecting perfection from people and start offering the same mercy that you yourself have received. This way of seeing does not come naturally. It requires a conscious choice. It requires asking yourself, how would God see this person? And responding accordingly. It transforms the way you handle conflicts, the way you speak about others, and the way you carry yourself in difficult situations. When you see others through God's eyes, you walk in a love that cannot be shaken. You become unoffendable, unshaken by insults, and unmoved by negativity. Instead of reacting in frustration, you respond with wisdom. Instead of holding grudges, you extend grace. And in doing so, you not only free others from the weight of judgment, but you free yourself from the burden of anger and offense. Your heart and mind are the gateways to your peace, your joy, and your strength. Whatever you allow in will eventually shape your thoughts, emotions, and actions. If you constantly dwell on offense, negativity, and bitterness, your heart will become heavy and your mind will be clouded. But if you fill yourself with truth, wisdom, and peace, no outside force can shake you. Guarding your heart means being careful about what you allow to take root within you. Words spoken against you, past hurts, and daily frustrations all try to plant seeds in your heart. If you entertain them, they will grow into resentment, anger, and fear. But when you guard your heart, you refuse to let those seeds take root. You reject thoughts that steal your peace and replace them with truth. Your mind is the battlefield where every conflict begins. If you allow negative thoughts to run unchecked, they will control your emotions. If you meditate on offenses, you will become bitter. If you constantly replay insults, they will take over your mood. But if you choose to focus on what is good, what is true, and what is worthy, your mind will remain strong and your spirit will remain unshaken. Guarding your heart and mind also means being selective about the influences around you. The people you listen to, the conversations you entertain, and the media you consume all shape your perspective. If you surround yourself with negativity, you will struggle to find peace. But if you choose wisdom, uplifting words, and godly counsel, your heart will be filled with strength and your mind will remain clear. This is not a passive task. It requires discipline. You must be intentional about what you allow in. You must learn to let go of offenses quickly, to shut out destructive voices, and to replace negative thoughts with truth. When you guard your heart and mind, you take control of your peace. You become unshaken by external circumstances, unbothered by the words of others, and unwavering in your purpose. Hands of a gent, no one can steal your peace unless you allow them to. Keep your heart protected and your mind focused, and you will walk in a strength that nothing can break. Your mind is the command center of your life. Every action, every word, and every emotion begins with a thought. If you can control your thoughts, you can control your reactions, your peace, and even your destiny. But if you let your thoughts run unchecked, they will control you. Many people live as prisoners of their own minds, allowing negative thoughts to dictate their emotions. They replay offenses, dwell on past hurts, and imagine worst-case scenarios. This kind of thinking breeds anger, anxiety, and frustration. But you were never meant to be ruled by negativity. You have the power to choose what you focus on. Not every thought deserves your attention. Just because a thought enters your mind does not mean you have to entertain it. You can reject thoughts that stir up bitterness, fear, and frustration. You can replace them with truth, with peace, and with wisdom. This is not about pretending that problems do not exist, but about refusing to let them consume you. The more you dwell on something, the stronger it becomes in your mind. If you constantly focus on how someone wronged you, the anger will grow. If you fixate on things that irritate you, frustration will take over. But if you choose to think about what is good, what is pure, and what is worthy, your entire outlook on life will change. Controlling your thoughts requires discipline. It means being aware of what you are allowing into your mind. It means catching negative thoughts before they take root and replacing them with something better. It means choosing to see things from a higher perspective rather than reacting emotionally. When you learn to control your thoughts, you take control of your emotions. You stop being easily offended, easily angered, and easily discouraged. You become unshaken by circumstances because your mind is fixed on what truly matters. No one can force you to think a certain way. You have the power to choose your thoughts. And when you choose wisely, your life will follow that direction. There are two ways to live: by the desires of the flesh or by the guidance of the Spirit. The flesh reacts impulsively. It seeks revenge when offended, holds grudges when wronged, and gives in to anger at the slightest provocation. It is easily irritated, quick to judge, and always looking for justification to remain bitter. But the Spirit leads in a different way. It calls for patience when tested, love when mistreated, and peace in the midst of conflict. Walking in the flesh means being controlled by emotions, letting every insult stir up anger, and allowing offenses to take root in your heart. It means constantly reacting to people and situations rather than choosing a response rooted in wisdom. But walking in the Spirit means living with a higher awareness, recognizing that your peace is not dependent on how others treat you, but on the strength within you. When you walk in the Spirit, you rise above petty arguments, refuse to be easily offended, and choose grace over retaliation. This is not because the offenses do not exist, but because you refuse to let them control your heart. You understand that battles are not won through anger or revenge, but through wisdom, patience, and peace. The flesh seeks temporary satisfaction, winning an argument, proving a point, getting even. But the Spirit seeks lasting victory, the kind that brings true freedom and unshakable peace. To walk in the Spirit, you must be intentional. You must train yourself to pause before reacting, to seek wisdom before speaking, and to surrender your emotions before they take control. The more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. Your heart will no longer be easily troubled, and your mind will no longer be consumed by offense. Instead, you will walk with a peace that is not dictated by circumstances and a strength that cannot be shaken by the actions of others. The difference between living in the flesh and walking in the Spirit is the difference between a life of frustration and a life of peace. One leads to exhaustion, anger, and endless battles. The other leads to freedom, joy, and unwavering strength. The choice is yours. React like the world or respond with wisdom. Live by fleeting emotions or walk in the Spirit and rise above. There is a deep longing in the human heart for justice. When you are wronged, mistreated, or falsely accused, everything in you wants to make it right, to defend yourself, to make sure the other person faces the consequences of their actions. But true justice does not come from human hands, it comes from God. Trusting in His justice means releasing the need to take matters into your own hands and believing that He sees, He knows, and He will handle every situation in His perfect way. When you try to control justice yourself, you carry a burden you were never meant to bear. You replay the offense in your mind, thinking of how to respond, how to prove yourself, how to make things right. This only leads to exhaustion, bitterness, and frustration. But when you trust in God's justice, you let go of the weight. You no longer feel the need to fight every battle or answer every attack, because you know that God is your defender. God's justice is different from human justice. While people look for immediate revenge, God looks at the heart. He sees not only the wrong done to you, but also the brokenness in the one who wronged you. His justice is not about destruction, it is about restoration. Sometimes He humbles a person to bring them to repentance. Sometimes He removes them from your life for your protection. Sometimes He allows a delay to test your trust in Him. But in every case, He is working behind the scenes in ways you cannot see. Trusting in God's justice does not mean ignoring injustice or pretending that wrongs do not matter. It means refusing to let them consume your heart. It means understanding that revenge does not bring peace, but surrender does. It means knowing that every wrong done against you is seen by God and will be dealt with in His time and His way. When you truly trust in God's justice, you walk in freedom. You no longer carry resentment because you know that nothing escapes His sight. You do not waste energy on anger because you know that He is in control. Instead, you keep your heart pure, your spirit at peace, and your faith unshaken, knowing that God will always have the final say. Patience is more than simply waiting, it is how you wait. It is the ability to remain calm in the face of delay, irritation, or injustice. Long-suffering goes even deeper. It is the strength to endure hardship, mistreatment, or prolonged difficulty without becoming bitter or losing faith. These qualities are not natural to human nature, which desires immediate relief, instant answers, and quick resolutions. But true maturity is found in the ability to remain steadfast, to endure with grace, and to trust that in time all things will be made right. Life will test your patience in many ways. People will frustrate you, circumstances will not always go your way, and prayers may not be answered when you expect them to be. If you allow impatience to rule you, you will live in constant frustration, always irritated, always upset, always on edge. But when you develop patience, you rise above temporary emotions. You learn to respond with wisdom instead of reacting with anger. Long-suffering is not weakness, it is strength. It takes far more power to endure a difficult season with peace than it does to lash out in frustration. It is easy to complain, easy to become bitter, easy to demand immediate change. But there is a refining that takes place in waiting, a strengthening that happens in enduring. Those who practice patience and long-suffering Develop a resilience that nothing in this world can break. This does not mean allowing yourself to be mistreated or remaining in harmful situations, but it does mean learning to trust God's timing, to let go of the need for immediate justice, and to keep your heart pure, even when things do not go as planned. Every trial of patience is an opportunity to grow, to build endurance, and to develop the kind of character that is unshaken by life's difficulties. When you embrace patience, you find peace. You no longer live at the mercy of delays, offenses, or disappointments. You walk with confidence, knowing that all things will unfold in the right time. You are not easily angered, not easily discouraged, and not easily moved by temporary frustrations. Instead, you stand firm, steady, and unshaken, knowing that those who wait with faith always receive far more than those who demand with frustration. Everything in this life is temporary, both the joys and the struggles, the victories and the disappointments. When you focus only on what is happening around you, it is easy to become discouraged, frustrated, or even consumed by anger. But when you keep your eyes on eternity, your perspective changes. You begin to see beyond the moment, beyond the offense, beyond the trial, and into the greater purpose that God has for you. The problems that seem so overwhelming today will one day be forgotten. The insults, the betrayals, the injustices, they will not last forever. But the way you respond to them will shape your character and your destiny. When you live with eternity in mind, you do not waste time holding grudges or seeking revenge. You do not let small offenses steal your peace. Instead, you choose wisdom, patience, and grace because you know that your purpose is bigger than any temporary frustration. Keeping your eyes on eternity means understanding that this world is not your final home. You are living for something greater than human approval, worldly success, or personal vindication. You are here to grow, to serve, to love, and to prepare for something far greater than anything this life can offer. When you grasp this truth, the things that once bothered you lose their power over you. You no longer react to every insult. You no longer dwell on every wrong. And you no longer allow temporary struggles to rob you of lasting joy. This eternal perspective brings peace. It frees you from the weight of anger and the burden of bitterness. It reminds you that you do not have to fight every battle or prove yourself to every critic. Your worth is not determined by how others treat you, but by who you are in God's eyes. And when you live with this mindset, you walk in a peace that cannot be shaken, a joy that cannot be stolen, and a strength that endures beyond anything this world can throw at you. A strong person is not the one who shouts the loudest, but the one who remains calm in the storm. Patience is not weakness, it is the mark of a mature and powerful spirit. One day, every offense, every insult, every betrayal will fade away. What matters is not how people treat you, but how you respond. Will you let the temporary actions of others rob you of eternal peace? My friends, do not let the words of men steal your joy. Do not let their actions control your heart. You are not a slave to anger. You are a child of peace. When you walk in this truth, no one, no matter how cruel, no matter how unjust, will have the power to disturb your soul. Go and live in the peace that no man can take away.